Many years ago, long before COVID-19, going out to a restaurant or a bar was already challenging for me. When I was 16 years old, I had, I still struggle with autism, but I used to have it a whole lot worse because my diet was atrocious. And I learned that it is a lot easier for me to swear off various additives in my diet than to try to cut back. My own experience. My parents obviously try to get me to cut back on sugar. They try to get me to cut back on fast food. They didn't realize all the other chemicals in the food, obviously, and I never successfully cut back on anything. I successfully quit doing those things, though. The problem is that when I was 16 years old, I quit drinking soda. I didn't quit all sugar at the beginning. The funny thing was that when I was 17 years old, one day after finishing eating, I had belched up this gas. And I think what I ate was probably very sugary. And when I belched up, the flavor of the gas kind of reminded me of soda, and it disgusted me out of my mind. And I started avoiding all sugar. Like, we wouldn't even cook with it. We wouldn't eat anything with the I wouldn't eat anything that had sugar as an ingredient. And it drove my parents crazy. Not because they thought it was dangerous to not consume any sugar. They just missed all the family time that we had together. So I stopped going to restaurants. Come to think of it, we had plenty of good family time at the dinner table. I don't know why we had to go to a restaurant at the time. So long before even COVID-19, long before you had to practice social distancing or wear a mask or wash your hands when you go to a restaurant, long before that, I had other precautions to take care of. So the COVID restrictions really didn't bother me so much. Now, when I was in my late teens to early 20s, there was a time when I almost never went to a restaurant because it was just so inconvenient. And you got to understand, having to sit down and talk to somebody about my dietary restrictions. I really hate having to tell people that I have any sort of disability. I really do. I treat it as a difference in body, not a disability. So I really hate having to tell people and have people refer to me as being challenged or high maintenance or anything like that. And so it's a lot easier for me to prepare my own foods because I don't have to tell myself those things. It's very second nature to me. And so for, I would say close to 10 years, I probably went to restaurants a handful of times in 10 years. Now, when I started working on my PhD, eventually I got a girlfriend, and I learned to be a little bit more patient with dealing with that. Now, at the beginning of COVID-19, I went to a Thai restaurant in the Redmond area, and obviously had to explain my dietary restrictions. And I was thinking to myself, this is the first conversation I've had with any other human for a month and a half at that point. Why am I so worried about it? And then it dawned on me, I really missed out on a lot of chance to interact with people during the years where I, just because of a simple misunderstanding, right? Not wanting people to think I'm disabled. Actually, nowadays it's a lot easier to be accepted for having differences in dietary preferences. In the past, people thought, did you have cancer, or did you what problem did you have that necessitated it, right? Nobody thought that you were trying to prevent a disease, right? Especially after COVID-19, it's going to be even more popular. It's going to be even more popular to have dietary differences, right? Many years ago, you used to have to defend why you were refusing food at an office event or at a party. Nowadays, it's a lot more acceptable to refuse food without having to give an explanation. I really like it. I really like the little bit of a movement we have with that. It's not even a movement, right? We talk about the being accepted for sexual orientation, being accepted for what you eat is kind of happening without it having to be a loud and obnoxious movement of some sort, which I really like. I wish it were the same way with the idea of being accepted for being single. Maybe it's happening at a slower pace than being accepted for what you eat. But COVID-19 has taught me that it's okay to go out and express what you need and not be afraid to interact with people and not to take for granted that you'll always get a chance to interact with people, right? Now, after the quarantine is over, I hope to travel to Gdansk, Poland, because the cost of living there is a whole lot less. So, for example, if I can continue to work remotely, to give you an idea of how inexpensive Poland is, I went to, I was in Krakow that time, and I went to a grocery store, and I picked out a few items, and when I went to check out and I looked at the number, I thought, well, this is very inexpensive. And then I realized that price is in Polish zloty. I thought it was in euros, and I thought it was already inexpensive enough. And then it was like a quarter of the price. And then I took a trip to Warsaw and Gdansk that year. And what really struck me was that I could go out to eat every meal. And it's a lot less expensive than back home in Seattle and eating every meal at home. And I get to interact with all the people there. The only problem is I don't speak Polish. If I did, that would be paradise, right? If I could work remotely there, and I can go out to eat every meal, and I could go on little trips like skydiving and all that, very inexpensive there, right? I signed up to do skydiving, but they rescheduled me, and it was after I would get back home, so it didn't work out that time. But I could do a lot of fun stuff there, right? Oh, I recently took up bowling, right? I could probably go there every day instead of twice a week, right? And I think it's very important for us to connect more. Obviously, I could do it a heck of a lot more if I'm in Poland. I really regret being so nervous about it when I was a kid. It's okay to have to ask. It's better to ask than to hide at home and nobody knowing what you want, right? In general, it's always better to at least attempt to get what you're looking for. You just might get it, right? And if you don't, you get your voice heard, right? It's kind of like there are a lot of people who voted for a candidate that didn't win this time, right? I voted for a candidate that didn't win. It's probably not the candidate you're thinking of, but it was important for my voice to get heard. If she had gotten 5% of the vote, different things would have happened, right? So it's very important. Thanks for watching.